Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvadha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste and welcome to today's session. Last week we stopped at the definition of Jiva and Ishvara, and we also looked at creation, what was Satyam and we revised what was Satyam and Mithya. So you have in front of you the screen again for you to take a look at it. So as you can see, we went through all these bullets again, and today's session will also be heavily dependent on the application of this knowledge. So keep this at the back of your mind as we go through today's session, because today's session will hinge heavily again on this Satyam Mithya relationship. So we gave the example of water in different waveforms to highlight this relationship, and we saw how all the different names that we attribute to how water appears in the ocean, these are all just merely different names and forms of water. Water being the Satyam, and these names and forms being the Mithya. And using this analogy, we went on to look at how Brahman as consciousness again creates with Maya as his creative power, he goes on to create the different subtle worlds, starting with the 6 highest subtle worlds: time and space, physical universe, and the subtle and gross bodies, which we popularly come to know it as Jivas, as the different Jivas. Okay, so this was what we saw last week. Remember, this slide is to be read in conjunction with the earlier slide. Okay, in conjunction with the earlier slide. Satyam and Mithya. Going forward, today I want to introduce a new term called Upadhi. Okay, some of you had asked me early on in the session many months ago on this word, and I had held back, but today is the right time to discuss it. We've been saying that all of these entities like subtle world, time, space, mountains, gross body, subtle body, we say these are all names and forms that have been superimposed on the consciousness. But in Vedanta, there's a common word for it, and that is the word called Upadhi, which I hope to introduce today. So what exactly is Upadhi? Essentially, and it's an adjunct. Adjunct means what? In English, adjunct means something that doesn't belong to it. Something that is there, but is not a part of it. It's not intrinsic to the entity. So Upadhi is an adjunct that limits or qualifies another entity. So the adjunct that limits or qualifies a particular entity is called an Upadhi. So point to note is that the adjunct does not belong to the entity that it qualifies. As I said, that's why it's called an adjunct. Otherwise, it would be called a part or a subsystem or something like that. Okay, so that's why. So the point to note is that adjunct does not belong to the entity that it qualifies. And names and forms are collectively called as Upadhi because they limit or they qualify the Satyam. Example, the name and form of a pot limits the clay to something particular, right? So without the name and form, without a form and a name for clay, there will never be an entity called pot. Okay, so the pot, the name and form of pot is a Upadhi on clay. Okay, so the name and form gives rise to this entity called the pot. Okay, and again another point to note, features of the Upadhi do not affect the Satyam. Features of the Upadhi do not affect the Satyam. The name and form of the pot does not affect the clay. The clay is not affected in any way with the name pot or with the form pot. Clay is clay. So features of the Upadhi do not affect the Satyam. Okay? And of course, Upadhi is Mithya. Okay, all along we've been saying names and forms are Mithya. Alright, and so here names and forms are one type of Upadhis. There are many types. But in Vedanta, the most popular Upadhis are names and forms. Okay, so whenever we use the word Upadhi in Vedanta text, you should make the connection that's typically talking about names and forms. Why? And names and forms, they limit or they qualify the Satyam. Okay, again, going back again, remember, Mithya is a dependent existent. Satyam is the existence or entity on which the Mithya depends. Okay? So, coming back to our situation, Upadhis give rise to the gross body and subtle body, because gross body and subtle body are mere names and forms on consciousness. We saw this last week. So just as how names and forms on clay give rise to a pot, names and forms in consciousness gives rise to the gross body and the subtle body. Yeah, Chitra?
Okay, because we are talking about names and forms here, I want a clarification to my understanding. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Okay, and now as a Jiva, we offer prayers and puja to our Ishtadevata, which could be Vishnu or Shiva or a Devi. Okay, so this is Mithya. This is a dependent reality, right? Okay, now, what happens is Ishvara, you mentioned, is a manifestation of names and forms. Isn't that also a dependent reality based on names and forms that you're mentioning? Because the Satyam, the Brahman is Satyam, that is a reality. So concept of Ishvara, would I be wrong if I said it is also a dependent reality?
You're not wrong. You're
No,
right.
okay, yeah.
You're right.
Oh, I'm right. Okay, okay. I just wanted to clarify on that. Yeah.
Your understanding is right. It's correct.
Okay, okay. But then remember in the notes, you use Ishvara and Brahma as synonymous, you know.
Yes.
We don't talk about them as separate. So
Yes.
if Ishvara is dependent reality, how is that possible?
Okay. I used Ishvara and Brahman as synonymous in the early stages of this class. I did. But this is the right juncture at which we should know their difference.
Okay.
Because we are going to analyze the operation of the Maha Vakya, Tat Tvam Asi. So at this point onwards, because we are going deep into Vedanta study, so the distinction between Ishvara and Brahman has to be clear and has to be borne in mind. For a non-Vedanta student, when we're talking about General Hinduism 101 and we're talking about General Hinduism classes, the difference doesn't matter. You know? That's why people will say the one is Nirguna Brahman and the other is Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is Ishvara, Nirguna Brahman is Brahman devoid of names and forms. Huh? So in a normal conventional Hinduism setting, this difference doesn't matter. You can use them interchangeably, but not here. Here because we are introducing a concept, and to ensure consistency, we have to do that.
Sorry, Ravi, just out of curiosity, you mentioned there are other upadhis apart from name and form, right?
Yeah.
What would they be like?
You see, names and forms come within the realm of something perceivable by your senses. It's pratiksha. I mean, it's under the pratiksha. That means you can, names and forms are something typically that you can, a form is something you see with your eyes, a name is something that you hear with your ears, within the range of senses. But there could be other things that could be imputed. For example, characteristics which may not be perceptible, like anger, for example. Anger can only manifest, right? But anger is something that's intrinsic. Emotion, some of these things don't come under the what is perceivable by the five senses. So these can also be upadhis, but there's a certain context to which it's done. But the popular upadhis and the ones that we deal with mostly in Brahma Vidya, in Atma Vichara, is mostly name and form.
Okay, thanks.
There could also be details like colors and things like that in psychological, not psychological, sorry, philosophical studies. They have other attributes which they talk about. Mainly, it's often I can't remember the name, but what I can recall is it's the non-perceivable characteristics that you can impute to something. So basically, what we are saying in Upadhi means if something doesn't have the attribute, but I impute it to that Satyam, then it becomes an Upadhi. and that attribute that I impute to that Vastu, if it limits it in some way, then it becomes an Upadhi. And names and forms are the most popular ones.
Okay, so because you mentioned that it gives rise to subtle body as well, right? Upadhis will give rise to subtle body. So, like what you mentioned, associating anger or emotion is also Upadhi.
Yes, anger and emotion is also Upadhi, but if you analyze further, anger and emotions will basically also be another type of names and forms actually. So it depends on the depth of analysis, how deep you analyze it. Because anger and emotion, if you keep on analyzing, you'll find that actually it's nothing but it's just a facet of your mind. And what is a mind? It's actually just consciousness again. Okay. Let me run a check on this on other types of upadhis, because just that offhand I can't remember. But let me get back to you on this. Maybe I'll go on the WhatsApp channel and highlight you. But remember that the most popular ones are names and forms. Why? Because these are the ones that appear in also in Upanishads, and Shankara also talks about it. For example, Chandogya Upanishad will popularly use Nama Rupa as the Upadhi. It's used to limit, and which gives rise to all the confusion and the limitations that we typically impose upon ourselves. So that's why Nama Rupa is normally the most popular one.
Just wanted to check, would smell also be an upadhi? For example, the smell of a jasmine as opposed to smell of a rose.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
also an upadhi, right?
Yes. Because but it comes under this category of Nama Rupa because it is also perceivable.
The smell as well.
Yeah, it's perceivable because smell is perceived. But if I would impute smell onto something that doesn't have a smell, then that becomes an upadhi. So moving on. So we are clear with upadhis. So henceforth, I will not use the name and form. Whenever I use the name upadhi, you can take it as name and form. Okay, take it as name and form typically. So back to Tattva Bodha. So what has happened is in Tattva Bodha, thus far, after explaining the macrocosm, the teacher had defined Jiva and Ishwara, okay, which I did last week via the slides. What's the definition of Jiva and what is the definition of Ishwara? And he says, after that he says that there is no difference between the Jiva and the Ishwara. He didn't use the word Tat Tvam Asi, but he implied that you are that. I'll come to Tat Tvam Asi in a while. But essentially, the teacher was saying that there is no difference between the Jiva and Ishvara based on the definitions that he gave, which we saw last week. To which the student then asked the question, how can you say that? How can it be? Jiva is of limited knowledge and has the ahankara, ahamvritti, ego, while Ishvara has limitless knowledge because he is sarvajna and he is without ego. So he's saying the attributes are contradictory. So the students is telling the teacher, you are saying something that is you're saying that two things that are so contradictory, you are referring to them and saying that they are the same and there is no difference. The differences are so stark, but you are saying that there are no differences. So it's a huge contradiction. This the student refutes to the teacher, okay? Which then sets the teacher on the path to go and explain, to bring in the Maha Vakya, Tat Tvam Asi, to clarify. Because the students' disagreement with the teacher is hinged on this statement, Tat Tvam Asi, which says that you are that. So that means you referring to the Jiva, and that referring to Ishvara. So he's saying Jiva is Ishvara. A cursory reading of it says Jiva, you, is Ishvara, that. So he's saying, so how can it be? Because they're so contradictory. Okay. So then the teacher goes on to bring on the Maha Vakya to show a deeper analysis of this line, Tat Tvam Asi, to show that while a cursory, superficial reading of it seems to suggest that there are huge contradictions, a deeper analysis of the phrase Tat Tvam Asi will show that there is indeed no difference between Jiva and Ishvara. And this is the what the next few verses are all going to be all about. Okay? Before we go into Tat Tvam Asi proper, I want to revise another revision again. I had spoken about this maybe in February or March. No, not March, maybe February. When I spoke about the concept of Pramana, and it's important that I talk about it again. Pramana means, sorry, so the teacher explains via the operation of Maha Vakya. Sorry, Pramana means a means of knowledge. Because Vedanta Vichara is about getting knowledge. So to get knowledge, you need to have a means of knowledge. And this was where I spoke about this word Pramana some months back, and I think it's time that we revise this, because this will lead us to understand the notion of, this will lead us to help us to understand how a Maha Vakya operates as a means of knowledge. How a Maha Vakya operates as a means of knowledge. Okay? So let's first look at what is a Pramana, a means of knowledge. Okay? So our problem is one of ignorance of our true self, right? This one is our fundamental problem we've established. We do not know what our true self is. And it's a problem of ignorance. This ignorance can thus be removed by knowledge of the self only, right? I always use the example, right? If you're ignorant of physics, you need knowledge of physics. If I'm ignorant of physics, I can't bring in knowledge of biology and give you. The ignorance of physics will not go away. Ignorance of physics will only go away with with knowledge of physics. Ignorance of chemistry will go away with knowledge of chemistry. So ignorance of your true self will only go away with knowledge of the self. So ignorance can thus be removed by knowledge of the self only. And how does knowledge come to us? Typically, our five senses are the primary means of knowledge, or what we call as Pramana. Because that's why we call them what kind of Indriyas? We call them the Jnanendriyas, right? Jnana Indriyas, instruments of knowledge, right? Because they are the ones via which we come to know the knowledge around the world. Okay, so the five senses are the primary means of knowledge, or the main pramanas for us. But so typically you think that then why not use this five senses to get the knowledge of the self? I mean, it's quite natural that we would do that because it's our primary means of knowledge. But however, that is not possible. Self-knowledge cannot be obtained from the five senses because the self, we have to remember we are trying to get knowledge of the self. Huh? The self, which is the basis for the five senses. Self is the basis for the five senses. Self is the eye of the eye, is the ear of the ear. Self enables the sense organs all to function. So you can't use the sense organs to get knowledge of the self. It's like asking a man to climb on his own shoulder. It's just not possible. Okay? So we need a special means of knowledge to work such that we can get the self-knowledge. Right? We need a special pramana, and in the Hindu tradition, this special pramana is called Shruti Pramana or Veda Pramana, okay, which is the Vedas, and in particular the Upanishads, which form the end part of the Vedas. That is the special pramana for the knowledge of the self. So knowledge of the self is found in the Upanishads, or rather, more accurately, Upanishads function as a pramana to enable the seeker to obtain knowledge of the self. And Maha Vakyas, which are in the Upanishads, are the anchor points in the operation of the Upanishads as Pramana. Maha Vakya is found inside the Upanishads. Remember last week I shared a few Maha Vakyas in the different Upanishads. So Maha Vakyas are the anchor points, okay, in the operation of the Upanishads as Pramana. So Vedanta Vichara is about wielding the words of the Upanishads properly to operate as a Pramana to deliver self-knowledge for a student to see his true self. Okay. What do I mean by glasses on the head? Because again, I want to reinforce the type of problem you're dealing with. The type of problem you are dealing with. If I have placed my glasses on my head, if I don't have a pair of, don't use glasses. Let's say I don't have a watch right now. Okay, I don't have a watch right now. And I'll tell Karthik, can you please get me a watch? So he goes to the shop or whatever, and he buys me a watch and he gives me the watch. So now I have a watch. So this is one type of problem where I don't have the watch, Karthik gets me the watch, I take the watch. But there is another type of problem where, for example, if I have my glasses on my head, and I tell Karthik, I don't have my glasses. Can you go and get, I need my glasses, can you get me glasses? Karthik doesn't have to go and get me a glasses. He doesn't have to go to the prescription optician and get my prescription and manufacture the glasses for me. He doesn't need to. He just needs to tell me that your glasses are on your head. Because my problem is not that I don't have the glasses. I have the glasses. It's just that I don't know. I don't know that I have the glasses. So self-knowledge problem is like the second type of problem. It is not that you do not know it's not that the self needs to, your inner essence need to come from somewhere else through some blue light and enter your head and gain access into yourself. That's not how it works. You are already the self. It's your essence. The problem is that you just don't know who you are. So it's a problem of knowledge, not a problem of obtaining something. It's a problem that is solved by knowing something. So it's a knowledge problem. Or rather, to put it more correctly, it's a problem of ignorance which can be solved by knowledge, not by getting something. Okay? So that's why I'm using the example of glasses on the head. If you have the glasses on your head, I don't need to get you the glasses. I just need to give you the knowledge that your glasses on your head. Okay? So this is the nature of the Vedanta Vichara. Okay? Any questions? So this is Pramana. All Vedanta Vichara is like that. And it operates in this manner and it's called Veda Pramana. Okay? Okay, I move on. So next we go to the operation of the Maha Vakya. Maha Vakya, here in the Tattva Bodha, they use the text Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi is found in the Chandogya Upanishad. It's a story between Shwetaketu and his father. I think it's Aruni, I think. I can't remember the name. So he's a boy who comes back having studied in the Gurukula, full of pride about his learning. And the father asks him some basic questions. And he finds that the son actually doesn't know. So the father makes him go on an exercise. So there are 9 episodes, 9 different episodes. Each episode, he will ask the boy to do something. And he'll use that episode to highlight that he is Tattvam, that Shwetaketu, that you are Tat Tvam Asi, to highlight that statement Tat Tvam Asi. One example I'll highlight. One of the 9 stories is this, where he will ask Shwetaketu to bring a glass of water. Then he'll ask him to dissolve some salt in the water. Then he will ask Shwetaketu now, can you test the top part of the water? So he'll taste the top part of the water. And then he'll ask Shwetaketu, how does it taste? He will say it's salty. Okay. And say now taste the middle part of the water. How does it taste? Shwetaketu will say it is salty. He now taste the bottom part of the solution. And then Shwetaketu will taste. How does it taste? You say it's salty. Okay. You say it's salty. Can you see the salt in the water? And Shwetaketu says, I can't. But how come it's salty? You see, you say it's salty, but you can't see the salt. He said, and you know where in the water is the salt? Then he will, Shwetaketu will say, I don't know. Then he will say, similarly, the Jiva is also like that. The most subtle essence of you pervades everything. It's not in one place. That, and then he will say some lines, and he will say, Tat Tvam Asi, that you are. You know, he will do this 9 times. Because why 9 times? Because each time he does it with a story, the boy won't understand the reality. He will not get it until the 9th time is when Shwetaketu will get it. The salt episode, I think, is the 6th or 7th story. So each time is a different story. And the 9th story is when it will all click for Shwetaketu. Okay? It's the Upanishad's way of communicating the reality. Okay? So we will not do what Shwetaketu did because we don't have the time. Tattva Bodha does it in a very quick and dirty way. But it's good for understanding the concept because it doesn't cover the depth to which Aruni and Shwetaketu covers in Chandogya Upanishad. Okay? So, how Shwetaketu, how does Tattva Bodha handles it is by saying that by using these 2 terms called Vacyartha and Lakshyartha. If you remember, the boys' issue, the students' issue in earlier on was that you said Tat Tvam Asi, but there is huge differences between Tat and Tvam. Tat means is Ishwara God, Tvam is you. There's huge difference between Tat and Tvam, and yet you are saying they are the same. This was the contention, the bone of contention from the student. Okay, so now the teacher is now going to explain that, and he uses these 2 terms called Vacyartha and Lakshyartha. Vacyartha means immediate meaning. For example, when I say the dog barks, this is the immediate meaning. It means the dog is barking. It is the immediate meaning of the sentence. So this sentence, Vacyartha, is the dog barks. Now this is another type of sentence where there is a Lakshyartha. I say he is a lion. When I say he is a lion, what does that mean? If I take the direct meaning means, you will think this guy is a guy who got a mane and actually he's got 4 legs. You know, a child will probably think like that. But you know that the direct meaning of this doesn't make sense. A human being, how can a human being be a lion? So the immediate meaning, you find that it's not applicable. So that is where in Vedanta they have this thing called an implied meaning. The Lakshyartha comes in. That means, what do you mean typically? When you say he is a lion, that means you are probably attributing something associated with the lion is imputed to him. That means he's a brave man. So you're saying he is a lion. So the Lakshyartha comes into play. So in Maha Vakya, what the teacher goes on to say in Tattva Bodha is that the Vacyartha of the word of Tvam, when we talk about Tvam, Jiva, the Vacyartha, the immediate meaning is the Jiva. We saw this last week, the one who is identified with the gross body and the subtle body. But the Lakshyartha is what? It is pure consciousness free from the Upadhis. Because remember, gross and subtle body, I said earlier, arise because of the Upadhis of Namarupa. So, what he is saying that is in Maha Vakya, we look at the Lakshyartha, for Jiva, it is not the one identified with the gross body, but you are actually referring to pure consciousness when you say Tvam. Similarly, when you look at Tat, again, the Vacyartha it's the Lord endowed with all the knowledge, but the implied meaning again is pure consciousness free from the Upadhis that are associated with the Lord. So if you look at the Lakshyartha of Tvam, it is pure consciousness. If you look at the Lakshyartha of Tat, it is pure consciousness. So Tat and Tvam are one and the same. If you look at the Vacyartha of Tvam, it is not the same as the Vacyartha of Tat. This was what the student was looking at when he made the refutation that they are not the same, because the student was looking at the Vacyartha. The Guru went on to explain in the Tattva Bodha verses that in the Maha Vakya Tat Tvam Asi, the meaning of the word Tvam and the meaning of the word Tat, for those 2 words, you should not take the Vacyartha. You should take the Lakshyartha. If you take the Lakshyartha, you will find that they are one and the same. which is pure consciousness, free from any form of Upadhi. And if you look at purely from Lakshyartha, then Tat Tvam Asi, the statement Tat Tvam Asi is not contradictory. It is a statement that is true and valid. Okay. The difference is only in the Upadhi, which is Mithya anyway. Hence, Tat Tvam Asi is not a contradiction because there is oneness of pure consciousness. Okay. This is how the teacher replies to the student's refutation. Coming back to example, again this is a graphical. I tried to represent this graphically or pictorially. If you all remember this was the earlier one. Okay, let's clean up everything and just look at Tat and Tvam. This is the Jiva. Okay, so there is Tat, there is Tvam, which is the Jiva, right? Jiva is gross and subtle body. Tat is Ishwara, right? And the student is saying both are different, right? But what exactly is the gross body and subtle body? They are upadhis, name and form. And this was Chitra's question just now, right? Upadhi, name and form. So Brahman with the name and form, Upadhi becomes Tat. Brahman with specific different types of, with limited names and forms for the individual becomes the subtle body and the gross body. So again, if the Upadhi is gone, let's say when the gross body is dead and gone, you just left with the subtle body, Upadhi, right? When that Upadhi is resolved, actually what you're left with is only pure consciousness. Then that is Tat Tvam Asi. Okay? Just pictorially, I thought of representing it a bit. So then the next question, so it seems if the problem is one of Upadhi, then let's just resolve the Upadhi, right? Very simple. So how do we resolve the Upadhi then? The resolution of the Upadhi is that I need not destroy it. So when I say resolve, I don't mean destroy the Upadhi. You don't need to go and destroy the Upadhi. Okay? Because just like you say, I don't need to destroy the jewelry to see the gold. I don't need to destroy the jewelry to see the gold. I just need to understand that what I see as jewelry is actually just name and form superimposed on gold. Okay? So the negation of the Mithya is what I need to do. Negation of Mithya, and negation of Mithya can only take place when there is right knowledge. Okay? Just like in the darkness, I see a rope and I mistake it to be a snake. And when right knowledge comes about the rope, assuming somebody shines a light or somebody comes and tells me, no, that was a rope I placed there. Then that person has given me the right knowledge. And then I do look at it in greater depth and I inquire into the nature of that snake which I'm frightened of. And I come to see that it's not a snake, it's a rope. So the negation of the Mithya snake has taken place with the right knowledge. I did not kill the snake to get a rope. I did not remove the snake to get the rope. I just resolved the Upadhi. What is the Upadhi that was there? The Upadhi there was the name and particularly the form of the snake that was superimposed on the rope, which made me get frightened. And when I got the right knowledge about what is the rope, and I got the right knowledge of what is the rope, that Mithya snake that was superimposed on the rope was negated. The Mithya snake that was superimposed on the rope was negated. Okay? It is no longer mistaken to be a snake. So when we talk about resolving, don't run away with the wrong idea that we're talking about destroying. Remember, if it is something real, then you need to destroy it, right? It's something that, but remember, this is not real. The upadhis are mere names and forms that you have superimposed on it. The relationship is one of Satyam and Mithya. So the resolution here is about resolving the name and form through right understanding. Correct? It's how you choose to look at it. Okay? Through right knowledge. That is the resolving and the negation that we are talking about. So to see the Satyam of myself, to see the truth of myself, who am I really? I need to negate the gross and body, not destroy the gross and body. Why? Because the gross and body, gross body and subtle body, I had erroneously taken to be the Atma, my true essence. This is the fundamental problem of all jivas. We had inadvertently taken the gross body and the subtle body to be our true self. And this has led to all the problems that we are facing today. The gross body and subtle body are names and forms, Mithya, that has been superimposed on the Atma. Atma is my true essence, who I really am. So today if somebody would ask you, who are you? When I say I, the ahankara, the I is associated with the gross body or the subtle body, right? Obviously, that's why when we say I, we are thinking of my physical body, how tall I am, what's my name, what's my height, what are my physical attributes, that's gross body. And also the subtle body, my intellect, how smart I am, what's my profession, So this is how I have taken my true essence to be, because I had identified myself with the gross body and the subtle body. But the I that I am really is actually nothing but Shuddha Chaitanya. Pure consciousness is what I really am. But because the name and form of the gross body and subtle body had been superimposed on the consciousness, today when you say I, you are either saying the I with reference to either the physical gross body or the subtle body. So this is the fundamental problem that we all face. And because I have done that, I take myself to be a limited being. I take myself to be subjected to all the sorrows, the problems, the issues, the conflicts, the anger, the frustrations, and all the other things that come along with the subtle body. It's a problem of ignorance about who I really am. So if this ignorance can be resolved by right knowledge, and the first step towards getting the right knowledge is to resolve the upadhi that I had mistakenly imputed, superimposed on pure consciousness. And that is the GB and the SB. Okay? So this is a very important point, note, because this is the solution methodology that is adopted by Vedanta. It's not about destroying. It's about resolving through right knowledge, getting a clear understanding of the nature, the status, the ontological, the epistemological status of each and every entity that I have taken myself to be. This is a journey about discovering who I am. And how is this negation resolution done? It is done through inquiry on the words of the Upanishads to see clearly what I am not. Okay? To see clearly what I am not. So it's a very unique method of inquiry because you are inquiring on a subject that what you are. And the methodology is one of first identifying all the things that you are not. The most obvious one, of course, being the body. The gross body is always where we start because we know very clearly that you're not the body, right? So the approach is through the inquiry into the words of the Upanishads to discover all that I am not. Okay? That's why you have Nirvana Shatkam, where say Mano Buddhya Hankara Chittani Naham, I am not this, I am not that. Nirvana Shatkam is about process whereby I slowly resolve every upadhi one by one. And after I've said everything I'm not, what happens? After understanding what I'm not, does it mean there's a vacuum? There's no vacuum. After understanding what I am not, I don't need to seek what I am. Why? Because remember, when we spoke about Atma, we said Atma is Satyam, Atma is consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere. Again, going back to my example, if between clay and pot, if I resolve the pot, resolve the names and forms, all that is left is clay. So the same way, through inquiry to realize that I'm not gross body and subtle body, once I know that I'm not the gross body, I'm not the subtle body, what is left will be pure consciousness. That's why every verse in Nirvana Shatkam will end with pure consciousness. And say, Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta, Chittani Naham, I'm not, Nacha Shrotra Jihve, Nacha Grana Netre, I'm not the physical organs or the Jnanendriyas, Nacha vyoma bhumirna tejo na vayu. That means I'm not the 5 elements that make up the gross body. I am not. So the first 3 lines of every verse will be what I'm not. And the 4th line will be what I am. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Satchit Ananda. I am of the nature of Shiva. I am Shiva, not nature of Shiva. I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Shiva. I am auspiciousness. I am pure consciousness. That is the conclusion that comes at the every end of every verse of Nirvana Shaka. Why? Because once you negate all that you are not, you don't need to seek what you are. Because Atma is all that is left. And what is there will shine by itself. Because they say Atma is Suprakasha. It is self-shining. It doesn't need something else to shine and illuminate. It's Suprakasha. It will shine on its own accord. And you'll see yourself as nothing but Atma. Since we are on the subject of Pramana, I thought I'll also produce some Pramana. Siddhat evaham iti asmad yushmad dharmo nishidyate rajvam ivahidir yuktya tattvam iti adi shasanehi. This is by Adi Shankara itself. The functions of the teachings like Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art, associated with yukti, with reasoning, is merely to negate the not self element, the Yushvat Dharma. Not self element here refers to the upadhis. What is not, means the Mithya elements from this self, Atma, itself already existent and evident. Swata Siddha, Swata Swaprakasha as I. The process is like the negation of the idea of a snake, falsely imagined. These are actual words, this actual verse of Adi Shankara himself. This is from Upadesa-sahasri, a text which all scholars mutually agree was composed by Adi Shankara in the 8th century. Okay, keywords is here. Tat Tvam Asi is actually to negate the all that is not. It means Upadhi from the self. And again, one more I want you to draw attention. You see, reasoning through reasoning. You see, that means they want yukti to be wielded. They want the inquiry into the words of Tat Tvam Asi, not blindly. They want you to do a logical inquiry. So when they say inquiry means, they mean using yukti. Yukti means logic. They want you to use logic to inquire into the words. It's not a belief system anymore. It's a system, a logical system of inquiry. Okay? And that inquiry is merely to negate the upadhi, the not self element, the mithya element, from the satyam. Okay? And satyam is already self-evident. So once you negate the mithya through the reasoning, satyam will be existent and evident. So says Shankara. So the process is like the negation of the idea of a snake. When you remove the snake, I don't have to bring in a rope. The rope will be there on its own accord. This is from Adi Shankara himself. Don't worry about this one and the later one. So you see, one more point here is that Shankara says that it's evident as I, Aham. So the point he's saying is that when you negate the gross body and the subtle body through the process of reasoning, you will realize that consciousness is not something that's going to drop from the sky. You'll find that consciousness is really I. When you say Aham, Aham Asmi, Aham is actually, you'll find that the I is really consciousness. The only problem is today we have the problem is that when I say I am thinking of the gross body and subtle body. But through Vichara, I will come to see that when I say I can see myself as pure consciousness. Nothing but pure consciousness, devoid of the limitations of the gross body and the subtle body. This is where Vedanta Vichara will bring you to. And this is what Shankara is saying here in Upadesa-sahasri. Okay? He says, from this self itself, existent and evident as Ahamiti, as I. It will reveal itself as I. It's not going to come out as a statue outside or as a spirit outside and stand in front of you. No, you will come to see itself, see it as I. Yeah.
So Ravi, the Jiva has no identity then, self-identity.
Jiva, you just give me a minute. You're asking with reference to a particular slide or a general question? If you want,
A general question, because once we remove, negate the Upadhi, you're left with the Jiva. So the the Jiva itself is the same as pure consciousness, and therefore it
Yes.
has no identity of itself.
Jiva never had an identity of itself in the real scheme of things.
Okay.
Jiva was always something that we took ourselves to be. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Ravi, I was just wondering, so is there, from the Upanishads, is there any clue or any depiction of what happens at the point when you resolve the Upadhis? Is there like a test to say that,
Yes.
test or like a benchmark to say that one has resolved the Upadhis? Is it a description of sort? Because we
Description
may
of-
be having this momentary feeling of, yes, I can feel it, or like, we can understand the Maha Vakyas momentarily. But if one has to be a true Jivan Mukta, so how do you know that someone is a true Jivan Mukta? Is there like a...
There are a set of slides I have at the end. Actually, one slide is coming to it. I'm coming to it, but never mind. Since you asked, okay. You see, the resolution of the Upadhi. It will be wonderful for all of us if it is a one time. Once I resolve, it stays that way for good. But unfortunately, it's not like that because of our years and births, so many births of conditioning. Where we've been conditioned to take yourself to be this cross body and subtle body. Even when you resolve it, the old habits come back in again. So you're asking the question, what is the indicator? The indicator is that you will see that you cease to be that, at the point of resolution, you see it fine. But the next moment when the old things come flooding back again, the old habits come back again, then you will know that you're not. Because this is about yourself. So it's very easy to tell whether, am I at this moment taking myself to be gross body and subtle body, or am I taking myself to be consciousness? That's very easy because it's self-evident to you. So again, the Jivan Mukta is somebody who's always immersed in the thought of who he never has that confusion about gross or subtle body. He is always pure consciousness and aware of that. So that is the indicator. You will know yourself, whether you are on this side of the fence or on that side of the fence.
So the belief system is only till you reach this point.
The belief system is needed till you reach this point, but as you go on the journey, as you proceed on the journey, you see the inquiry is not something that takes, later you'll say, I'll talk a bit more about that. You see, the inquiry is not something that, while I make it so simple in the slides here, it's not something that just happens with a snap of a finger. Because of the conditioning, it involves deep inquiry into the statements of the Upanishads, deep study, reflections, and all that. So, while that process is going on, no doubt it's a logical process, building lots of logic, thinking. While you're doing that well on the journey there, doing that, it's fine and good. It does not mean that you need to ditch the belief system, because the belief system is still required for your conduct. Remember, you have not reached the state yet. You're still on the journey. You're still a jignasu mumukshu. Your conduct is still very important, because remember, your pure and steady mind still needs to be cultivated and maintained. Mm-hmm. And for that to happen and for that to be sustained, you need the belief system there. Yeah. Very important. Because without the belief system, you are entirely focused on the vichara, on the inquiry. The other part of the solution may be compromised, which is the pure and steady mind. So to continue to cultivate the pure and steady mind, the belief system is very important. The belief that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, all is one, God is in everyone, divinity is in everyone, unconditional love and all that. It's very important, forgiving judgment, so that you continue to grow as an individual in parallel with your journey of seeking Vedantic knowledge.
Yeah.
So both are important at all times, if you ask me.
Okay, thanks.
Sada? Yeah, Sada?
Namaste, Ravi.
Namaste.
Ravi, by virtue of the fact that one is saddled with and I use intentionally the word saddled with a sthula sarira or a gross body, one then is going to face this constant struggle that internally I know I'm pure consciousness, but having to transact in the world, if I behave in a manner in which I only exhibit every time that I'm pure consciousness, I will sound a misfit in the world because I have to live in the gross body that I have been given and I'm saddled with, you know. And therefore, this is going to be a steady struggle. And I'm wondering how great seers got over this struggle. And are we setting ourselves up for huge confusion and struggle, in this process? Because I'm going to be constantly wanting to, exhibit pure consciousness principles in my through my stula sharira, and through my interactions.
You see, I know pot is made of clay. I can still use the pot. Okay? So using back your word, I may be saddled with a gross body and subtle body, but I know that this thing that I'm saddled with is only Mithya. I use it when it's required. You remember the story of the cat and the 65,000 rats?
Yeah.
Right? So when required, the rats will come and do a dance and go off. They have a purpose. So gross body, subtle body, when required, they have a purpose. You come and use them. But after the show is over, you go back and sit down. Don't come and bug me and disturb me with all your issues and your frustrations and your sorrow. So they have a role. So use them. Continue to use the gross body and subtle body. Right? You don't have to manifest pure consciousness at all times. You don't have to. A good example, let's talk about real example. Ramakrishna Paramahansa was a very good example. He interacted, he had visitors, People will come in the dozens to visit him. Yeah, he talked to them, he gave them questions, he answered their questions, he told them stories. Not a problem transacting. Likewise for Ramana Maharshi, although Ramana Maharshi didn't communicate as much as Ramakrishna, but Ramakrishna. So it's doable. It's knowing its place and using it as and when required. Our problem today is the mind takes control of us and we are not able to use it to its optimum utility and use it when we want to use it. Okay? So I don't think there'll be a problem.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Prasad?
Thank you, Ravi. There's something cyclic going on here because the entity that will resolve the upadhi is itself the subtle body. It's itself an upadhi. So, in other words, our mind and our intellect and our logic and our thinking is being used to resolve its own non-existence.
Exactly. Not non-existence. Resolve to see what really it is.
Yes.
Good observation. True.
So it's like going, it's similar to what you said about the senses cannot be used as the Pramaana.
Yeah.
It's somewhat similar to that because the Upadhi itself is resolving itself.
Yes. Upadhi itself is resolving itself in the sense that it is seeing itself for its Satyam. When I said senses can't see itself, means the senses can't operate like a normal.
Yes.
How the senses typically operate is have this subject-object divide. So when they say can't see, that means the senses can't create, make the Atma as an object and try to see it as a subject. Because the subject is also Atma. You see, that was what I was saying, that it's not possible.
Yes.
But when you talk about resolving of the subtle body through knowledge, what is happening is that it is starting to see itself like a mind. The mind starts to see itself actually as something that is conditioned by name and form. Through the vichara, it will come to see that name and form are something auxiliary to me. Actually, what am I? I am pure consciousness.
Yeah. But
and
they
seeing
continue
myself with pure consciousness, that is fine because that is suprakasha. It is self-evident.
So they exist in the Mithya.
Who?
The subtle body and the gross body, the mind itself.
Yeah, of course. Remember my earlier chart, the one where I drew about the ocean and the water. So the subtle body is a Mithya in consciousness being Satyam. Yeah. Chitra?
Yeah, just an observation, Ravi. I sort of, what Sada mentioned just now resonated within me. And listening to these lectures these last few weeks, I think we need to constantly revisit this knowledge because it doesn't stay within us for long, especially when we go back to the world of transaction. So we need to constantly revisit this knowledge, number one. And a phrase that you use today, developing that belief system, that I think is very important, because when we stay in that belief system, it may be easier to operate in the secular transactional world. Would I be correct if I said that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because your belief system, not only, while I answered Sada, was it Sada? No, Shanti. Well, I answered her that way about the belief system helping to develop pure and steady mind. It just came to my mind that the belief system can also help you to recollect the teachings of the Vedanta that you have studied, your inquiry, your conclusions that you have derived from the vichara, from the inquiry. Those conclusions can be anchored in a way helped by the belief system. When I say belief system, what I mean is really having God as a co-partner, as a co-creator, as a friend, whatever, with you all the time in your life. That's what really I mean by belief system. I'm not talking about some elaborate, complicated belief system. I'm just talking about having God with you and remembering that God is with us all the time and the divinity is in me and the divinity is in everyone. Simple as that. Nothing complicated about that.
No, even some of these concepts from from Tattva Bodha can contribute to that belief system.
Sure.
That understanding, that knowledge.
Oh yes.
Pure knowledge staying there is only academic, you see, but it's sort of, if it constitutes a body of knowledge which functions as a belief system, for want of another phrase, I think that can sort of help us in...
If you're saying that knowledge can make the belief stronger, that's definitely true.
Yes.
Because what was previously pure belief now is reinforced by knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge based on logical reasoning. So of course, if anything, it will definitely strengthen the belief system very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
P. Lata.
Yeah.
Not Lavanya
Hi.
Lata. Yeah,
Hi, Raviji. I just want to understand, how do we experience Upadhi in the dream state and the deep sleep state? That's
deep sleep state, no Upadhi. Deep sleep state, the mind is at rest. Experience Upadhi in dream state. Okay.
I'm not sure. Okay.
Okay. You see, what is the dream state? Dream state is a state where your mind is projecting a universe. In the waking state, the universe is only experienced by the mind. It's not projected by the mind. In the dream state, your dream world is projected by the mind and experienced by the mind. Both are done by the mind, correct? Yeah. So both are actually what? Mithya, on pure consciousness. So that is so you ask me, what is the Upadhi? The Upadhi there is the name and forms that are imputed on the subconscious, on the mind, and you have a dream world created and you experience a dream, experience yourself in the dream as a dreamer. So that is the Upadhi.
So in deep sleep state, there isn't any Upadhi. Okay, all right.
Ravi, not so much a question, but I thought of a very loose analogy for the point about how we can resolve the Upadhi but still be with it. So, I mean, recently there's all this George Floyd and racism, right? So if racism were ignorance, and if someone is able to look beyond racism, look at all human beings beyond their races, we still will hold on to our race and color, but at the same time, we're able to see beyond it. So we don't have to, we can still be off color and still look beyond it when we look at people. So just a very loose analogy of thinking, if you're not a racist, then obviously you don't look at people's color, skin, right? So you can still be with your Upadhi and look beyond.
Yes, Chinamma?
Yes. Yes, Namaste, Raviji.
Namaste.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can.
Let's talk about the kaarana sarira. Is it part of Jiva also?
Yes. Okay, kaarana sharira, because is it because it's missing from the diagram? Is that why you're concerned?
Oh.
Because it's missing in the diagram. Okay, Karana Sharira, why is not there in the diagram is because Karana Sharira means what? What does it mean? It's basically the causal body. The causal body, causal for what? Causal for the gross body and the subtle body. So where there is the gross body and the subtle body, there is no need to have a causal body because the causal body is implicit there. When you look at a tree, do I need to show you the seed or can you see the seed? But you know that from the seed the tree came, correct? Yeah. So that's why. And remember I mentioned this before. When the universe is manifested at any one time, things exist only as gross and subtle body or subtle body alone. They cannot exist as causal body alone because causal body is an unmanifested state. The only time causal body exists on its own is when the pralaya, when the universe is being collapsed and everything is existing in the unmanifested state. That's the only time causal body is existing on its own. As long as there is creation, causal body doesn't exist on its own. It's either existing as a subtle body or as a subtle and gross body.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Tanuja?
Hi, I have two questions. Why not call the Karna Sharira a Jiva then? Why call it Karna Sharira and then Jiva? If they're essentially the same thing. Like why is it segregated? So we have gross body, subtle body, and then causal body, right? But you said the causal body only exists as a causal body in the unmanifested state. Why not just call it Jiva or Atma? Why
So Jiva is a term that is used for, popularly used for gross and subtle body. It means that in the manifested world, the individual, for want of a better word, I use the word soul. The individual soul is what they call as Jiva. The one that suffers, the one that goes through all the trials and tribulations in life, and the one that is seeking enlightenment is called the Jiva, as opposed to Ishwara.
Okay, what I meant is why not call the causal body Atma or...
Okay. Causal body is not Atma because it is not aware of its own identity with consciousness. That is why there is still the facet of ignorance present in the causal body.
Okay.
So it is still, it's got the Mithya there. It is not free of that Upadhi yet.
Okay. Also, one more question, somewhat unrelated. Is the Upadesa-saaram the same as the Upadesa-sahasri?
Good observation. Upadesa-saaram is from Ramana Maharishi. Okay. It's written by Ramana Maharishi, or rather somebody wrote it based on the utterances of Ramana Maharishi. That's called Upadesa-saaram. Okay. Sara or Saram. What I showed earlier is Upadesa-sahasri. This is 1000 verses, they call it, but it's actually a few hundred verses from Adi Shankara himself. So Upadesa-sahasri is 7th century AD. Upadesa-saaram is 19th century, 20th century AD.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I know they sound very similar. Lots of people get confused between the two. What I showed was Upadesa-sahasri.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we'll get a quick summary of the Vedanta Sadhana. After talking so much about Vedanta Sadhana, this is the summary. First and foremost, lifestyle of Karma Yoga, God as your life partner. This is what we talk about, belief system and all that with Chitra and Shanti Ravindran. Okay. Then you need to cultivate the fourfold Sadhana Chatushtaya, very important. Be serious and consistent. There's this text called DPD. What is DPD? Forgotten day. Trick question. What is DPD? Durvasana
Pratikara
Dashakam. Very good. So difficult to pronounce. Durvasana Pratikara Dashakam. Okay. Be serious and consistent in applying, especially this is the belief system. Lead a life based on the belief. I am divine, all are divine. So Shanti, this was the question. So you can continue to lead a life of that while Vichara is being done. Okay. Shravanam. Shravanam is study of the words of the Vedanta. Actually, study may not be the best choice of word. It's actually listening. Listening to the words of the Vedanta. That is called Shravanam. But Shravanam will naturally clear doubts in our mind. So there's a need to inquire and reflect on the words of the Vedanta to remove doubt and attain clarity on who I am. We saw the earlier phrase from Upadesa-sahasri. Shankara said it was, you have to yield, you have to wield yukti. Wield yukti. So this inquiry and reflection is not based, it's not blind belief. This inquiry and reflection on the words of the Vedanta has to be accompanied by a very strong sense of logic. Very, very strong sense of logic. That's why Vedanta becomes very logical at some point, where there's no room for belief. So this is, and the logic is very important, because without the logic, your mind will not accept the substance of those words as truth. Because our minds are all very logical, it will rebel. It will rebel against things that you try to impose on it as a form of belief. No matter how much you try to force it, a part of the mind will always oppose it. The mind can only be quietened when the logic suits it. And therefore, this mananam is a very important step, where you inquire and reflect on the words to get the clarity on who am I. Okay? Use logic to get the clarity on who I am himself, and of course to remove the doubts. Because some of these things, some of you may be vague about it, or even your clarity is so, you're not so sure about it. But that so is not acceptable. You have to be crystal clear here. The doubt must be totally eradicated. Only then the knowledge will sit. Okay? And then the underlying part, clarity will come quickly for a pure and steady mind. For a mind that is more inward looking, a mind that has a tendency that is always on this journey, that's inquisitive about who I am, that's always constantly looking within. Such a mind will arrive at the truth and will have clarity much faster than something that's always distracted by external appearances and external things. So that's very important. So Shravanam, Mananam, and the third one is what we call as Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is constantly reflect on the ascertained truth, not belief truth. Earlier was a belief truth. Here was a belief, now is ascertained. From belief, it becomes ascertained truth. That I am divine. Previously, you believe that I am divine and all are divine. You lead your life, but here you have ascertained that you are divine and all are divine, and you live it for 24 hours. This is known as Brahmachintana. Okay? And this will lead to happiness that is infinite in quality. Remember our Brahmananda we spoke about the first day of the Vedanta, about this program? Okay? The happiness will arrive in quality and quantity, infinite in quality and quantity, and there will be absence of sorrow. This is the process for all Vedanta Sadhana. Whether you studied Vedanta for 1 week, or whether for 6 months, or whether you've been studying Vedanta for 15 years, doesn't make a difference. This is the step. Everybody has to follow this. There's no shortcut. This is the summary of the Vedanta Sadhana. Nothing new here, just that I'm putting it all in order. I've talked about most of this, but if you have questions, you can still ask. Doesn't matter. It's okay. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, I never talked so much about it, but I thought it's the right time to introduce it. But basically, it's about listening, inquiring, reflecting clear doubts, and then constantly reflecting on it as sustained truth and living it. This is the summary of the Vedanta Sadhana. Okay, I move on. Again, some Shastra Pramana, since we are talking about Pramanas today, I thought I'll bring in some Pramana again. This is the opening verse of Upadesa-sahasri. Yeah, opening verse of Upadesa-sahasri, again by Adi Shankara. See, Om, we will now explain the method of instruction in the means to liberation for the benefit of those who desire deep liberation. Those who deeply desire liberation. This is a mumukshu. Deeply desire liberation is a mumukshu, and who are possessed of faith, bhakti, and who have asked for such instructions. Okay? Means you only give it to those people who are interested. You don't go around dishing it to everybody. Yeah? So that's the first line. And he says the means to liberation is knowledge. It has to be thought again and again. This is why Chitra earlier mentioned about having to revisit again and again. So this is where Shankara is saying the same thing. It has to be thought again and again until firmly grasped. Punav punar. Until there's grahanam, there's grasping of it. Okay? Until there is firm grasping. Actually, not just grahanam dridhi bhavati. Dridhi bhavati. That means firm grasping. So if we have to teach again and again, teacher has to teach, student has to learn again and again until it is firmly grasped. Okay? So this is the means to liberation that Shankara is saying. Okay? Don't worry too much of who's a pure Brahmin and all that, because In case you're wondering, oh, it's only taught to a pure Brahmin, the next verse actually clarifies that there's no such thing as a pure Brahmin. This should not be interpreted as a caste sense. Shankara quotes to say, whoever practices universal benevolence is a Brahmin. Okay, so there's nothing to do with the caste Brahmin. So the point is that it has to be, it's not a one-day job or you attend a course and you get a certificate to say that you are qualified. It's not like that. This is something that you need to continuously study and inquire until you get it. And what's the outcome about all this? The outcome? KPI. Okay, we need to look at KPI. Because there must be some indicators to tell you, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Study so hard, no KPI. So how do you know that you have delivered? How do you know you have met your sales target? How do you know you have met your performance? If you don't meet this KPI, that means what? That means your inquiry is, you need to do more work, need to work harder. Okay? The frequency and duration of happy moments will increase. Frequency of moments when you are at peace will increase. Okay? Which means, I'm not saying these KPIs are, you see it at the end of 15 years of Vedanta study. No, what I'm trying to say is that these KPIs are, these are things that will happen to you even as you start on the journey to study Vedanta. Even as you embark on the journey and you proceed, and as long as you're sincere in seeking and studying Vedanta, these KPIs will start to show up in your life. Okay? You'll find that you're increasingly less dependent on people, events, and situations to make yourself happy. Today, we always depend on these things, right? You'll find that you're less and less dependent. That means your happiness will not be contingent on people behaving in a certain way, or events turning out a certain way, or situations coming favorably to you. No. Regardless of what, you will still be happy. Your happiness will be derived from something intrinsic to yourself. And I'm not talking about a Jivan Mukta. I'm not talking about Jivan Mukta. I'm talking about a person who basically who's serious and puts in effort on the path to Vedanta. These things will already show up in his life. A lot of our problems arise because of frustrations, afflictions, because we want things to happen a certain way. Okay? This will give you the mindset to let things happen rather than to make things happen. This is a huge leap in lifestyle, and will bring a huge quantum in your happiness and satisfaction if you can have this mindset. Take away that controlling element, about controlling element on situation, people, things, events. Okay, it is something that comes. You can't force these things on yourself. It comes from a mindset that you can develop by surrendering to something higher, by understanding that gross body, subtle body, all these are just tools that I have. They are Mithya. What I am is divinity, pure consciousness. That kind of understanding is what that will allow you to have this type of mindset. If you try to force this on yourself without an understanding, it will only lead to more frustration on yourself. You will allow things to happen, but deep inside you will continue to be frustrated. You will not have that peace that we're talking about here. Thinking and acting from a position of love rather than fear. And then, very nice thing, you will lose your ability to worry. Okay? Loss of ability to worry. No interest in conflict or gossip. Loss of interest to interpret or judge the actions of others. So if you find that all these things are happening, that means good. You are on the journey. If you find that all this is not happening, that means you still find that you still continue to have all this. That means, what does it mean? It means that you need to work harder. Work harder on what? Work harder on all these things that I spoke about earlier. This, the summary of the Vedanta Sadhana, this one. You need to work on all of this. That means you need to work on Karma Yoga, you need to work on Sadhana Chatushtaya, you need to work on DPD, then you need to do more Vichara, everything. Whole works of it. You need to reflect where is your weak areas and work on such that eventually you start to see this. Yeah, Dr. Prasad.
Ravi, regarding your fourth bullet point, increasing tendency to let things happen rather than to make or want things to happen in a certain way. We also want to live a dharmic life, which means that we also want to right some wrongs. And we want to also improve life. We want to do seva, for example. So And we also want to perhaps invent new things or innovate new things or discover new things, do research. So I find this a little bit like tendency to let things happen, go with the flow, rather than trying to fix things and solve problems.
Maybe the word, my choice of words can be made better. You see, duty, I'm not talking about duty here. Doing duty to the best of your abilities, already mentioned. Karma yoga is there. You have to do it as Ishwara Buddhi. That's a given. So you can't. So that there's no question of saying that. Oh, therefore I don't want to do my duty. I want to allow things to happen. I don't want to be driven. I don't want to be goal oriented. I don't want to do make things better for people around me in my jobs situation. This is all given. It has to do. What I'm talking about here is when things don't go our way. It's our reactions and our internal responses. And in situations where, I'm not saying in all situations you just need to stand by and watch things happen, but there are many situations where upon deeper analysis, you'll find that going with the flow probably is a much better way than to get involved and be afflicted. I can't specifically say in these situations you need to let things happen, in these situations you need to get involved. But the rule of thumb would be that ask yourself, is it your role and your duty? If it is, then you have to do it. But otherwise, ask yourself, what is the degree to which you need to be involved? And how much you need to be mentally involved. You can be physically involved in activities, but our sorrows don't come from our physical involvement. It comes from our reactions, our emotional responses. That is where you need to be more careful, watch our responses and reactions, and let things happen rather than internally want things to happen a certain way. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we want to do it in a detached way.
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that. Any other questions? Yeah, Chitra, you had a question?
Your comment about Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman that you made, now that we have spoken a lot about Mithya and Satyam, would I be right if I said Saguna Brahman is Mithya, Nirguna Brahman is Satyam?
Okay. Okay, let me think about that. Saguna Brahman is Mithya.
Because we are dealing with names and forms here. Yeah.
You see, Saguna Brahman or Ishwara exists only in relation to the Jiva and creation. When there is no Jiva, when there is no creation, there is no Saguna Brahman. There's no such thing as a Saguna Brahman. So, yeah, it is right. You can say Saguna Brahman is Mithya. Yes. Any other last questions?
I have one question on.
Stop here. Yeah.
First question earlier. So if this is if both these Saguna, I'm mixing up the words again.
Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman.
That's right. If you talk about oneness, then it's the same consciousness. It's just it's in Jiva and in everybody, as you painted out in the ocean earlier. So why is it a Mithya?
Which one? Why is which one a Mithya?
Saguna.
Saguna.
Saguna, yeah.
Saguna, she's saying, is a Mithya because you remember the earlier diagram where I showed, where, let me go to that slide. Where we were saying that, the Upadhi slide, just give me a moment. Yeah, you see, where Ishwara, the whole concept, Ishwara is Saguna Brahman. Let's identify the word there. So Ishwara gains that status of Ishwaratvam by virtue of a name and form. That means he has a particular form. Either Changu Chakra or carrying a Trishul or a certain form, a human form. It's a kind of a limitation. There is a name and form there. So if you impute a name and form on consciousness, it becomes a Mithya. That's where Chitra was coming from when she said Saguna Brahman, therefore is Mithya in that sense. Right? Nirguna Brahman, on the other hand, is devoid of names and forms. You see? So Nirguna Brahman doesn't have any form at all. So you have Shiva with Trishul and Nandi and Parvati, you can't call that Nirguna Brahman. Technically, that's wrong.
Okay.
So that's where they're coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Shanti?
I think in one class you said Ishvara is the creative power of Brahman when you were teaching the macrocosm.
Maya, yeah. So you see, when Maya is the creative power in Brahman, when it starts to manifest, Ishvara also comes, the the relation of the Jagat to Brahman is that the Ishwara Tvam is also, God comes as a creator to create the universe. You see, there can only be a creator in relation to a creator. Correct? So when God assumes the form of, or Brahman assumes the form of a creator, then it becomes Ishwara. Correct? That's why I always was saying, Ishwara can never be on its own without a Jagat. It's meaningless. You see? So the creator has to be there, then the creation comes about. And the creator is only a creator because of the creation. Otherwise, he's not called a creator. Somebody else raised their hand? Yeah, Dr. Prasad?
Very quickly, Ravi. Are there different levels of consciousness or just...
No. Consciousness is one.
One.
Mithya, Mukta, Shuddha, Buddha. Only one.
Thank you.
Next week, we will look at... one more time, we'll look at the person who has reached the final state of realization. We'll look at that again. It will involve a revision of a lot of these concepts that we looked at today. About the Satyam, Mithya, and consciousness. And then we'll go on to look at why such a person is not born again. Why is it that he has broken free from the cycle of samsara? Okay, we'll look at that next week. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahisha go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini desho yam shobharahitah brahmanas santu nirbhayah sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayah sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhave asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.